So I'm doing a little bit of research for this video, and I start finding reviews for this speaker in places like design, architecture, and even fashion publications. And it had me thinking about how we take in audio in general and just who's doing it. You look at the classic designs that I myself love. I love seeing the large floor standing options, the stand mounts, all the amplifiers, new and old, and even just all the accessories around these parts. But there's definitely something to be said about enabling people to enjoy music beyond what occasionally can become sort of a laboratory for sound. And I say that as someone who genuinely loves the hobby and most of the products that come along with it. But I think if we're being honest, there's a version of this that does get away from us a little bit, at least at some times, right? Where the pursuit of the perfect sound becomes the whole point and the music can become secondary in some cases. The gear becomes the thing you're optimizing, the room becomes the thing you're treating, and somewhere along the way, the person who just wanted to sit down and hear great music, that gets left behind. And shouldn't that really be the number one priority, with the rest of this falling in line after it? That's not a criticism about any of us got here. Most people watching this channel went down that road and they loved every minute of it. Heck, I am one of these people. I mean, bring on the gear, new and old. There's just so much good stuff out there. But it does create a gap, doesn't it? Because out there is a huge number of people, myself included, who genuinely do care about the music. The people who feel it, the ones who seek it out, new and old, they're just looking for the next music experience. And there's a lot of these people who would absolutely invest in a better listening experience if they knew how to approach it. And a lot of these people, they look at what this hobby asks of them and they just don't enter. That might be the cost, the gatekeeping, or possibly just the confusion about what they really need. If we're being honest about this, it really can be a lot if you don't approach this in a sane, healthy way. Not the money necessarily, but the commitment, the complexity, the sense that you need to already know what you're doing before you're allowed to even enter a conversation. And I think that's a real loss for them and honestly for the hobby, because this community is genuinely better when more people are in it. And that only happens if there's products that are willing to meet people kind of halfway, right? Where they are or what specific needs they have. So the person I'm talking about, and trust me, they are out there, they're putting on their favorite album at the end of a long day, and they're just feeling it, just enjoying the music. Maybe they heard a great system at a friend's place and they thought they wanted that same feeling in their house. They just have no idea where to start, and depending on who you talk to, traditional entry points don't really feel designed for them. The Pantheone Obsidian is, I think, a genuine attempt to meet one of these types of people. The whole idea behind the company is, what if the speaker was the object? Not the component, not a piece of a larger system, but the thing itself. Something you'd want in your space because of what it is, not just what it does. And that's a pretty interesting design philosophy when you think about it, because it's not far off from how we think about art. A painting on your wall isn't there to perform a function. It's there because it means something, because it changes the feeling of a room. The Obsidian is trying to occupy that same space. The design draws from a sculpture sensibility, almost a geological form when you look at it. When you look at it, I think of it as something that belongs in a room's decor, rather than standing apart from it as like a piece of equipment. Me, I really like the components as it's almost art to myself, but for a lot of people, that just doesn't fly, at least within their space. Whether that philosophy translates into something worth owning sonically, that's where we're going to dig into a little bit here. I have some highs where I can totally see it fitting, but I also have some things that could use some addressing on this design. Inside the cabinet, you've got a 5 1/4 inch woofer, 2 1-inch silk dome tweeters, and a Class D amp. It's 40 watts on the woofer and 20 watts each for the tweeters, so 80 watts total. The handmade resin cabinet looks really nice, but it isn't purely aesthetic either. That geometry is acoustically intentional, designed to minimize the internal standing waves that conventional rectangular enclosures deal with. So the form and the function are connected here, which I'm glad to see. They had this intention in mind rather than just building a speaker into a pretty design for home decor. Connectivity covers everything you want: dual band Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, AirPlay, Spotify Connect, Tidal, Amazon Music, Alexa integration, and high-res audio support up to 24-bit 192. It has a 15-hour battery life, multi-room capability. It's a respectable hardware and software package for a speaker in this category. As for the battery, you do have the option to just leave these plugged in, but my take on that one is people shopping this one, they probably have design intentions in mind, where they might just have these placed in areas without power cord options and just charge them as needed. Now, I actually do have a pair of these, so I want to talk about the differences between running one versus two, because it is pretty significant here. A single unit on its own is impressive in its general use case. The faceted cabinet has an omnidirectional design. It fills a room from a single point better than what conventional designs can do, as far as sitting in a sweet spot. You can put it on a shelf, a table, a countertop, and it just works wherever you put it really. The imaging is diffused by design, which is perfect for background listening or any situation where you're not locked into that sweet spot. Running two as a stereo pair though, the personality does change pretty dramatically. You actually get left and right imaging, real soundstage width, and that front to back depth where you can hear the space inside of a recording rather than just the sound coming off of it. When you hear this as a pair, songs with wide mixes open up in a way that a single unit physically can't deliver. And because these are fully wireless and battery powered, you're not routing cables or hunting for outlets near your ideal placement. You just put them where they work acoustically and visually. That freedom is actually useful for the casual listener who wants music. Maybe they're looking for community, listening with friends, but not so much the critical listening. I mean, during my testing, I had these in the kitchen, in the living room, in a sunroom. If the weather was warmer, I could see myself grabbing one or two of these and even bringing them out onto the deck. As for how low these get, the bass extends to 55 Hertz. It's not going to pressurize a room, obviously, with a 5¼ inch driver, but it's punchy and controlled, which is an honest result for this driver size. The DSP handling the crossover and the room correction sounds well tuned. I mean, you have some options to tune it for your space. You have free space, close to the wall, in a corner. Nothing overly technical here. The biggest impact is the bass control. Free space gives you the most, and others just kind of pull that back so you don't end up with a really bloated sound if you happen to have these corner loaded. I do have a few things worth knowing here. At normal to moderately loud levels, these sound really respectable and enjoyable. But nearing that full volume, the single driver, the woofer, and pairing with that amp, they can lose a bit of that control. Yeah, I know most people won't be pushing these that hard, but that's just the limitation on this driver size. It's worth knowing if, you're going to be blasting 808 bass on these for hours on end. Most people won't, but it's just something you should know. My suggestion, if you can, just run a pair. That keeps things in control without asking the woofer to reach beyond its compact size. Also, the button sounds, I'd love the ability to mute them. The volume change tone is a bit piercing. The front lights dim after just a short while, which that part's really nice, but I couldn't find a way to silence the control sounds. It's a small thing, and thankfully it doesn't make any sound when you're using your phone to control the volume. It's just something that could be improved in the software. And changing tracks in the front panel isn't really super reliable. It's a swipe from low to high for volume to skip, and about half the time I just end up turning the volume up instead of changing the track. Most people are going to control these from their phone anyways, but it's a quirk worth knowing about. So $1,500 per unit. That's the real conversation here. For that money, you could absolutely build a passive system, decent bookshelf speakers, a solid integrated amp, and that would likely win out on pure performance, right? I mean, there's going to be more low-end extension, likely bigger dynamics. That's just true, and it'd be dishonest to say otherwise. But I think that comparison isn't really the right one for this product. The Obsidian isn't competing with a separate system. It's competing with what that other person, the one who doesn't want the listening laboratory, what they would actually buy instead to integrate into their home. A Sonos product, another high-end Bluetooth speaker, something that sounds, good enough and asks nothing from them. And against that competition, this handles itself really well. Good resolution, good connectivity, a clean, intentional sound, and an object that has genuine presence in a room, and it could blend into just about any decor. Here's the other thing though, and this is where that art parallel comes back around. When you buy a piece of art for your home, you're not asking it to justify its price against what else you could have bought for that money. You're asking whether it belongs in your space or maybe even your life, whether it really adds something. The Obsidian is trying to earn that same consideration, and I think for the right person it does. The question worth asking isn't, is this the best $1,500 of acoustic performance? It's what does the person buying this actually need from it? And for a design-conscious person who wants music in their life without the hobby attached to it, this is a strong answer. So back to those design and architecture publications covering this thing, I think they got it right. They recognized it as a well-designed object that's worth owning in a space where you want the sound without the commitment of a dedicated hi-fi setup. I've been running a pair of these in my office, and the stereo setup is legitimately good. Sit down and listen good, not just impressive considering what it is good. One unit is a great room filler for the casual listen in my opinion. Two could be a real system for people looking for something like this. And the bigger point that I keep coming back to, this hobby is genuinely, it's just better when more people are in it. Not everyone is going to come in through the same traditional door. Some people need a different one, and that's perfectly okay. And products like this are exactly how that happens. Links are in the description on this one. Subscribe, comment, like, all that. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Later.